Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from guṇa-pravāha, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 85, Text 16. Because of the shortage of time, it's also the appearance day of Madhvacharya. I'll say a few words in the day that Lord Ramachandra conquered over Lanka, over Ravana. I'll just say the verse and we'll move on from there. Guṇa-pravāha etasminn, abudhās akhilātmanaḥ, gatim sūkṣmām abodhena, saṁsarantīha karmabhiḥ. Those who are truly ignorant, while imprisoned within the ceaseless flow of this world's material qualities, fail to know you, the Supreme Soul of all that be, as their ultimate sublime destination. Because of their ignorance, the entanglement of material work forces such souls to wander in the cycle of birth and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. A soul who forgets his true identity as the servant of God is sent to this world to be imprisoned in a succession of material bodies. Wrongly identifying himself with these bodies, such a conditioned soul suffers the consequent distress of karmic action and reaction. Vasudeva, as a compassionate Vaishnava, laments for the suffering conditioned souls, whose unhappiness, the result of ignorance, can be remedied by knowledge of the principles of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Magyantmadandasya gnana shalakaya chaksurvimilitam jena tasmai si gurave namah. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam shtapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamaya dadanti svaha padanti. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The poet Devakinandana, famous poet, he writes as follows: Shakala Vaishnava Pade, Mora Namaskara, Iti Kichu Aparada Nahuka Amara. Hoyachen Hoiven Prabhu Jata Bhakta Vrinda, Bandana Kore Shibara, Charanara Vinda. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas, praying I will not commit offenses in my attempts to please them. To all Vaishnavas who have ever been, and to all Vaishnavas who will ever be, I offer my obeisances to their lotus feet. Shri Vaishnava Sangha Ki. I'd also like to quote another prayer. It's very dear to my heart, which I like to repeat as a disciple and a representative of my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, sitting here on this asana. My mind longs for the blessed vision of my Guru. He cries out like a thirsty chakora bird. My thirst is not quenched, and I can find no peace without the vision of that blessed person. O Lord and Master, your face is most beautiful, and the sound of your words impart very deep wisdom. It has been so long since this rainbird has had even a glimpse of water. Blessed is that land where you dwell, my dearmost friend and spiritual master. I give myself to you now and forever, O deliverer of my soul. When I could not be with you just for a moment, the dark age of Kali Yuga dawned on me. When will I meet you again, O beloved Lord and Master? I cannot endure the night, and sleep does not come to me without your audience. I will surrender everything to have your darshan once again. It was my extreme good fortune to meet you, O most saintly of all saintly persons. And I will find you again in the eternal home where I meant to dwell. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. So, in this verse today, we hear Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, described as a compassionate Vaishnava, lamenting for the suffering conditioned souls. It's been a wonderful chapter, actually. We're hearing from Krishna's father. We get to hear from so many saintly persons, so many important persons. This is interesting that we're hearing in this chapter from Krishna's father. And he's described as a compassionate Vaishnava, lamenting for the suffering conditioned souls. Krishna's father. I was thinking that this feeling of compassion for the conditioned souls, it's really a devotee's, how could you say, most notable sentiment. You could say it's the crescent jewel of all of a Vaishnava or Vaishnavi's good qualities. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-21, we hear famous verse, Tatikshava Kunika Shurida Sarvadehinam Ajata Satavashanta Sarva Sarabhushana. The symptoms of a sadhu, Vaishnava, are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he's peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So there in that classic verse, we hear the word karunika. Karunika means a sadhu who's merciful to others. This is Vasudeva. He's described as compassionate, of his many qualities. A Vaishnava goes out of his way to share his or her good fortune with others. And really, it's this quality of karunika, this sense of compassion for his brothers and sisters. How brothers and sisters? It means all living entities, because Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, he's the seed-giving father of all created beings. Culturally many, but spiritually one. We're all part of one greater family, the family of God. We're all his children. So a devotee has that deep vision, and he tries to reclaim his brothers and sisters. There's that saying, blood is thicker than water. They use it in a material sense. My family, my neighborhood, my country, as opposed to all other designations. Blood is thicker than water. The blood of my family is thicker than water. But a Vaishnava thinks differently. Vidya vinaya sampani, brahmani gavihastini, suni chaiva sapakicha, pandita samadarshanaha. He sees even a dog eater as his brother and sister. That blood, that's how Vaishnavas see. Everyone's my brother and my sister. So having been delivered himself or herself, he goes out of his way to share his good fortune with others. It's this quality of karunika that sets him apart from all other classes of transcendentalists. There's three classes of transcendentalists. Prabhupada would say the yogi with his Bengali accent. We say yogi, but he would say jogi. The jnani and the bhakta, the devotees. They're all special souls, in as much that they've all understood the temporary and illusory nature of this world. That's not so easy to understand. And they try to renounce gross and subtle sense gratification, to transcend this world. That's no small realization, no small goal. So Bhagavatam says, and this is a very interesting verse, Bhagavatam says, we should honor all these classes of transcendentalists. The jnanis, who are very often mayavadis, the yogis who are pursuing mystic powers, we're not interested, playing with the material energy, and the devotees. We should honor them all for this reason. They've turned their back on material existence towards transcendence. Mahatsevam doramahur vimuktesh tamodharam yoshitam sangi sangam. There's the verse. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Bhagavatam, Grantaraj. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to these Mahatmas. Isn't that interesting? When I first read that, I fell off my seat when I first read that. However, the benefit of associating with Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, cannot compare to the association of any other class of transcendentalists, again with all due respect. Why? Because a devotee, his mind is fixed on the param gatim, the higher goal of life. He's always looking towards the spiritual world. Om tat Vishnu paramam padam sada pasyanti surayo. Wise and learned devotees always look to the supreme abode of the Lord, Vishnu Krishna. There's only two paths, pravritti marg and nivritti marg. The path of sense gratification and the path of transcendence, culminating and going back home, back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan. When I was a kid, I remember we joke around. Somebody was good, I was a good guy, my friend was the bad guy. I said, I'll take the high road. I'll take the low road. I'll take the high road, you take the low road. I'll go to heaven and you'll go to hell. I'll take the high road, you take the low road, sense gratification. I'll go to heaven and you'll go to hell. Only two paths. So someone who turns his back on sense gratification, material enjoyment, and tries to transcend into the effulgence of the Lord or mystic powers, God bless you. But Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pasyanti Suryo. Wise and learned devotees are always looking to the supreme abode of Vishnu or Krishna. And the amazing thing is those devotees were not interested. Nadanam, Najanam, Sundarim, Kabacham, Jagadisha, anything, gross or subtle, anything that's not connected to pure devotional service. Rupa Goswami was famous. He wouldn't tolerate any statement in scripture that was against the principle of pure devotional service. Those devotees will give you a helping hand to achieve the same as they did. It's an amazing thing. This is not true of yogis and jnanis. We have our Mahajan. There's 12 Mahajans. They're like dear to our hearts. Our heroes, Prahlad Maharaj. My dear Nrsingadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, English, indeed, but they're interested only in their own deliverance. Not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence. They're not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these fools and rascals. He's also referring to the other paths of transcendence. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter of your lotus feet. This is the distinguishing quality. Devotee is not satisfied for his own deliverance. He's concerned about others. In his introduction to Vilap Kushmanjali, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami glorifies Srila Sanatana Goswami in the same mood. He writes, Kridam Buddhirya Pada Dukudhuki. The Vaishnava, like Srila Sanatana Goswami, is an ocean of mercy to the fallen conditioned souls. Indeed, he is so compassionate that, although for himself he knows no unhappiness, he feels unhappiness on the account of their suffering. Srila Sanatana Goswami. This is Raghunath Das Goswami noted this in the personality of Sanatana Goswami. He was Shantushti. He was fully satisfied by dint of his devotional service to Radha and Krishna. At the same time, he was dissatisfied to see the fallen condition of the conditioned souls. So this is the meaning of karunika, this feeling of compassion for fallen souls. And Krishna's father, his dad, he had that. Any devotee and any rasa has that. And it's the crest jewel of all qualities. But devotee is an abode of good qualities. But you know, in the days of yore, the king, he had a crown, the queen had, and there were jewels, and there was the crest jewel, the top jewel, the most brilliant, the most beautiful, the most expensive, just like here in India. The crest jewel of all crest jewels was stolen by the British some hundreds of years ago, and now sits on the crown of the Queen of England. We won't get too political here. But what is the crest jewel? Devotees have their compassion. And where I want it, right? We're Vaishnavas, and we want these qualities because we can use them in the service of Guru and Gauranga. Not that we become famous, we're very merciful. No, we see ourselves as instruments in the hands of our spiritual masters, Krishna. So we want these qualities to be good servants. There's nothing higher than being the servant of a glorious master and to be well tuned into that seva, into that service. So we want to have that. We have this lowly and this greed to develop this compassion as exemplified by our Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Gaur-Nitai, and Krishna himself. They're the repository. So we pray to them. Please share some of that so I can serve you nicely. We have a strong desire. Like there was a song some 20 years ago. Somebody was singing about sense gratification. I want it all and I want it now. There's people like that out there. I want it all and I want it now. We want the same greed for Krishna, like Rupa Goswami writes in Padyavali. As young boys are attracted to young girls, and young girls are attracted to young boys, with the same intensity, Lord, let me be attracted to your lotus feet. He's turning it around like a magnet. A magnet can repel and a magnet can attract. So we are attracted to all these things of this world. Now we're turning it all around. We want some renunciation so that we can become attached to Radha Shyam, the science of Krishna consciousness. So where do we get this mood? From Krishna. Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya duksitam dharma samstapanam. He comes to this world out of compassion. He could send anyone, but he comes himself because we're his kids. I like to tell the story of Akbar. Akbar was Muslim emperor some hundreds of years ago here in India, but he had some attraction for other spiritual traditions, including Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He gave land here in Vrindavan. He gave permission for building some of the Vaishnava Goswami's temples. Powerful man, emperor. One day he was walking in one of the parks in Delhi, beautiful park, and he's with his family members, he's with his security, he's with, beyond that, his guards, and then his military, and then like hundreds of people. He's surrounded by so many qualified people, and his grandson's, trying to catch a turtle, in a little pond 50 meters away. And the grandson slips and falls into the pond, starts to drown. He's only 5 years old. Akbar saw that. He stopped. He took off his crown. The dust came up. Heavy coat with jewels. Quickly take it off. His shirt underneath. His pants, his shoes, his sword, his knife, stripped down to his kopans, let us say. And he ran to that pond and he jumped in, swam to the bottom, picked up that little boy with his finger, brought him and put him on the bank. Slapped him on the bank. Saved the boy's life. So afterwards he goes back and there's this whole thing. They address him again and everything's got to be proper. And he's walking along and one of his ministers said, Lord, why did you go and save the grandson? You had so many qualified men here. He said, because my family, it's my grandson. I could have sent any of you, but it's mine, so therefore I come. So, Jiver Sopoya Krishnera Nityadas. Who are we? What is our real identity? When you really get down to the essence, we're all Krishna's servants. That's all. We're servants of the servants of the servant. I once saw Prabhupada's passport. We were traveling and we were going to immigration in New York City. And Prabhupada used to carry this white attaché case. I've never seen one like it. He had this white attaché case. And he never let anyone carry it because all his important belongings were in there, simple but important belongings. So we were traveling and we broke away from the rest of the group and we came to immigration. We stamped it. Then we went to security. We got to the security man was like a big kind of rough policeman. He said to Prabhupada, open it. Yeah, I looked at him. And then Prabhupada tried to open it, but he couldn't get the locks on. So the man said, open it! And I said to the policeman, I said, if you speak to my spiritual master one more time like that, I'm going to break your face. So he said, I thought you Hare Krishnas were nonviolent. I said, try me. So they said, then you open it. Oh, I said, that's the blessing. For standing up to my spiritual master, I get some immediate benefit. I looked at Prabhupada, he went like this. It clicked open. It popped up. And there it was like looking into a part of the spiritual world, seriously. Prabhupada's kartals were there. He had 2 pens, his eyeglasses were there, some papers, and his passport was there. So things were kind of shuffled around, so I thought I'd put them in the right place, so I opened up the passport. I was holding Prabhupada's passport. And there on the left side, there's all that, you have to write down different information, What is your address? What is your occupation? When you were born, etc. So I just lost all consciousness of this world, getting a peep into the life of a pure devotee. And time stood still. And I read, it wrote date of birth, and Prabhupada wrote something in the 1800s. And then it said address, and he said Vrindavan, India. And it said occupation. Now I was thinking, if occupation, usually I work in the tech industry, or I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a lawyer. Prabhupada, well, occupation, servant of His Divine Grace. Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhachakacharya Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He like took 3 lines. That's his occupation. You understand? This is his identity. Nothing more than being the servant of Guru Maharaj. That's all we want. We just want to be the servant. guru who will correct us to Gauranga. And by the mercy of Gauranga, we can be introduced to Radhe Shyam. So he's the first link, the most important link. So where does a devotee get this quality of compassion? From his father, like son. He gets it from Krishna. Krishna preached, and Lord Chaitanya really preached. Lord Chaitanya walked most of India just preaching Krishna consciousness. He showed that Kurunika. Emata bhakta bhav kari angi gha. Apani achari bhakti karali prachar. In this way, assuming the sentiment of a devotee, because he's God, assuming the sentiment of a devotee, Lord Chaitanya preached devotional service while practicing it himself. He came in the mood of a devotee. So we inherit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Krishna's consciousness is something you imbibe from another devotee. Like COVID. Remember COVID? You just breathe in and you get it. So imbibe's a subtle word, actually. You get Krishna consciousness, but you imbibe it. Sadhu sangha, sarvashashta koi lava matra sadhu sangha. Even one breath, you get it. Krishna consciousness, if you're fortunate. So if we want to go back home, back to Godhead, we have to develop this Karunika. It's an integral part of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and we've heard that over and over. We just finished, I think, the Bhadra campaign. That's a big Karunika act of mercy. And it's the ticket home. If we serve the mood of our spiritual master and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this world, we qualify ourselves to serve their mood of loving devotion in the spiritual world. This is the essence. If we serve their desires here, we qualify ourselves to serve their desires there. That's why it's better to be, on Fifth Avenue doing Harinam or distributing books, with all due respect, than sitting at Radhakund. I offer my respects. There's many genuine sadhus there, but for the general populace, for us, it's better we're on 4th Street and Vine, Hare Krishna. Because that's how you attract the attention of the Yuga avatar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati made this very clear in his Chaitanya Chandamrita 500 years ago. It's one of my favorite verses. By serving the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this world, one qualifies himself to obtain the causeless mercy of Srimati Radharani in Goloka. Elegance is truth spoken concisely. That's everything. We want to be like Narottam Das Thakur. He's a very deep rasic devotee. Don't think Prabhupada wanted us to become pure devotees. That's why he came. So Narottam was very rasic, but a powerful preacher. He's our hero, Narottam Srinivas Shamananda, the original second generation. They took the mantle, full speed ahead. By serving the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya in this world, one qualifies himself to obtain the causeless mercy of Radharani. There's only one verse that says it all, that's it. Actually, this mood of a Vaishnava cannot be glorified enough. And it doesn't mean necessarily you have to be, Vaisheshika Prabhu, one of my great, great heroes, who's rejuvenated book distribution on this planet. He's an empowered devotee. Or you don't have to be, a great kirtan singer like Bibi Govinda Maharaj. You can be a mom. It's the original Bhakti program. Mothers who give that time and attention and care and love to their children, that grew up in their generals, lieutenants, infantry, continuing the Sankirtan movement. If you just cook for the devotees, preachers, they need energy. You cook some samosas or whatever. It's all part of the great. Sankirtan means the complete glorification of the Lord. So everyone's just like this harmonium. I know this very well, it's my harmonium. There's one little screw, it keeps falling out, and all the keys go off, and this, it's a little tiny screw. But without it, I can't play. So everyone has a part to play. Everyone should take that satisfaction. And we should all be thinking like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the pioneer. He won't be satisfied until all the 14 worlds are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Oh yes, but that's exaggerate. No. To think the glories of chanting Hare Krishna are exaggeration, that's an offense. He foresaw it. Prabhupada said it to Guru Das, 1971 in London. This ISKCON movement will save the world in its darkest hour. So it's getting dark now. And we'll see. Maybe not my generation, or even your generation. It will all come to pass. Satya Sankalpa. When the Lord or his pure devotees say something, you don't need an astrologer. So this is our mood. We don't want to leave any of our family. Just like if there's a fire and there's a group of people, you take your children first and take them out, right? Not that you don't like anyone else, but it's family. You take your kid, come honey, maybe you come back in. But we see everyone like that. We see everyone like, so our mission's not over. You could say until all the desires of Srila Prabhupada for spreading this Krishna consciousness are in place. Once they're in place, you'll see souls going back every day. You look at, wow, look, there was another one. But gurukuls, farms, set of books in every house, Yamuna Devi's cookbook in every woman's kitchen. God bless her. I love that. I love that devotee. I love that cookbook. That's the standard. Our devotees as President of the United States make America Krishna conscious again, because at one point the whole world under Maharaj Yudhishthira was Krishna conscious. So these are big plans, but a devotee really is not even thinking of going back to Godhead. That depends on Srila Prabhupada, the spiritual master, if they desire. Just like Jayananda. Prabhupada desired. He wrote to him at a posthumous letter that if you had any material desires at the moment of death, you'll be transferred to Svargaloka. And there you can fulfill those desires and then serve to go back to Vaikuntha. But because you were hearing the chanting of Hare Krishna when you died, which was a tape recording, because everyone in the LA temple was Mangalarti, tape recording of Prabhupada. I say you've gone to Krishna Loka. Jayananda Prabhu ki. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he said, I see no reason why all my disciples cannot go back to Godhead in one lifetime. 1932 initiation lecture. It's possible. But our mood should be okay, but like Dhruva. Dhruva's on his way back. He's in the flower airplane. Hey, where's mom? And Vishnu Duta, she's not ready. She's not qualified. And I'm not going. She's my mother. Take me back. I'm not going. So they just kind of just a ghostly, like, we don't bring him back. And Vishnu says, where is he? So they went back and they got her on the desire of a Vaishnava. So this is our desire. We've been blessed. So many people, 7 billion with no blessings. And we see them just like Dhruva saw his mother. Vidya vinaya sampani, pavaniga vihastani. It's not just a verse to memorize so you can pass the test or whatever. It should be your heartbeat. I mentioned in a lecture a couple of years ago that in America we have a special branch of the armed forces. We have the Navy, we have the Army, we have the Air Force, and amongst the Army, we have Army Rangers. Really, they're like really skilled professional fighters. And they have a motto, never leave a man behind. And they were in combat in Vietnam, they were in combat in Iraq, and so forth and so on. And if one of their soldiers was shot, lying wounded in the middle of the battlefield, right, or if the battle's over and they had to retreat, sometimes, run away to fight another day, sometimes soldiers retreat. Discretion is the better part of valor. You learn this in the military. So if a man's lying dead on the battle and they retreat, they go get him. It's their motto. That's why a lot of boys join, because that camaraderie. Never leave a man behind. Army Rangers, sometimes you go to get the body, somebody dies getting the body. But they never leave a man behind. So I was thinking, I want to be like that. Sometimes Prabhupada would use analogies of the material nature to define a spiritual principle or part of the philosophy. It's the art of speaking, preaching. Many times Prabhupada used analogies to make philosophical things clear. So we can use that. Never leave a man or lady behind. That should be our heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. Heartbeat. Prabhupada was walking on Stinson Beach. I know it well. I was born in San Francisco. It was a place I used to surf. And Prabhupada would take his walks sometimes when he was there. And once the waves were crashing, Prabhupada said to his disciples, "What's that sound?" And they said, "Prabhupada, that's the sound of the waves breaking on the sand." He said, "No, that's the sound of his heartbeat." Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Always reminding us of the Param Gatim. Look, Vrindavan, more, nothing. So this is the mood, this is the heartbeat of a Vaishnava. Don't leave anyone behind. So if that's true for the Army Rangers, I'm speaking, it's like a patriot kind of, all right, it's all destiny, it's all karma really, but the sentiment's there. And the sentiment is there in our Krishna consciousness movement as well. What about that statement of Vasudev Dutt? Jivera Papa Lana Muni Karon Naraka Bhog Shakala Jivera Prabhu Dukacha, my Bengali, excuse me, Gajaha Bhavarog. Bengalis, please forgive me. My dear Lord, Vasudev Dutt, let me suffer perpetually in a hellish condition, accepting all the sinful reactions of all living entities. Please finish their diseased material life. That's taking it to the extreme. Let me suffer perpetually in a hellish condition, accepting all the sinful reactions of all living entities. Let them finish their diseased nature. Let them go all. Be the last man standing. Like custard. But our life's the life of eternity. We should be the last man. We should at some point, Srila Prabhupada, your mission is accomplished in this world. What's my next service? Oh, you go home with Jayananda. We should think like that. Not that we don't complete a service and go to the Guru and ask for another service. My dear Lord, let me suffer perpetually in a hellish condition, accepting all the sinful reactions of all living entities. Please finish the disease. At least this sentiment should be there. Then you'll be a powerful instrument in the hands of the Lord. Krishna says to Arjuna, be but an instrument, Arjuna. He was a warrior. You can be an instrument cooking, you can be an instrument raising baby, you can be an instrument driving, but be an instrument. This is the Yuga Dharma. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. Hello, Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyatha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So even in this movement, we have devotees of that caliber. We have devotees of that caliber. Lakshmanarayana Prabhu, he's a singer, and during COVID, because he didn't want to go outside, he had a YouTube program. It was mostly him. He invites some people. I watched it. I didn't tell him I watched it all the time because I love his melodies. I love the way he sings. So during COVID, and there'd be some devotees would come. Sometimes he was all alone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Who's listening? It's going in the ether, or there's bugs or germs or spiders. So there's a very advanced devotee. We have Maharaj sitting here with his danda. We have our illustrious temple president, Pachagoda. We have so many, not just Prabhupada disciples, but second, even third generation. I see when I travel, it's uncanny, some of these children, what they say and what they do at 2 years of age. There was a little girl, 7 years old, a couple of years ago. I was telling stories to children to try to encourage them, to act as a hero for them. I was telling all kinds of stories of my adventures. And somehow I talked about a dream I had about Prabhupada or something. And I said, "Do you children dream?" And 4 or 5 of them raised their hand. And one little girl said, "Yes, I dream of Sri Radha." I said, "Okay, like it just was like a picture or something." She said, No, she's there, I'm there. I'm making garlands for her. Vaijayanti. Lalita says she likes 5 kinds of flowers, and we sew them in this way, and I give them to my senior, who gives them to Rupa, who gives them to Lalita, who puts it on Radharani. And she's describing the different types of names of different flowers I'd never heard of. I said, "You dreamt that?" She said, "Yeah, but it's not a dream. It's like when I dream about her, it's real." "What else you do?" "Oh, I cook burfi, I cook sandesh." And she's giving the recipe and how she does it. And then we go to the kunjas and we prepare all the flower bed for Radha and Krishna, and then we sing songs. I said, "You dream that?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Wow, I'd like to dream like that." She said, "You can't because you're a male." I thought, who's this kid? You can't, you're male. Males can't do this. You have to keep practicing Krishna consciousness. Then you go to the planet in the universe where Krishna's pastimes are taking place. You take birth in the womb of a gopi. You get trained in Gopi Bhav. And then maybe you can come to Goloka and serve there. You're a male. I felt really like inferior. So you never know this movement. The demigods are waiting in line to take birth in this movement, Prabhupada said. So when we see devotees like that, we should seek out. I have to admit, when the kids took prasadam, she left a little something on her plate, a little crumb. I took the crumb. I thought, gosh, an old soul. You never know. We should be respectful to our senior devotees who have made it this far, and through their preaching, through their speaking, we can understand their level of advancement. And we know they're very dear to Guru and Gauranga. That association of, in any group of devotees, there's beginners who we lovingly lift up. There's devotees on the same level, we embrace them in friendship. And we acknowledge the senior devotees. We acknowledge our spiritual master, representing Krishna. And we hanker for their association. Deva Setvani Tirthani Darshana Sparsha Narshanayi. One can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, and worshiping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same result immediately simply by receiving the glance of an exalted sage. So when you get that mercy by helping a devotee up, by embracing a godbrother, or by serving your seniors, you're going to make advancement. I would say most of our advancement comes from blessings. And then you have to share it. In the Shushloka Satakam by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, it means 100 verses glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, Yavantu Vaishnave Loke Pari Tranasya Hetave Vatanti Prabhu Nadishta Desha Desha Grihe Grihe. All Vaishnavas in the world, on the order of Lord Chaitanya, must proclaim his names from house to house, from country to country, just to deliver the fallen souls. We have to. You have to share it. As soon as you become a recipient of this mercy, you become a receptacle, and people have to come and drink. If they don't drink, you go to them. Moses doesn't go to the mountain goes to Moses. If they don't come to us, we go to them. Don't hold on to that mercy. Oh, but if I give it away, I got mercy from Guru Maharaj, and my deities are giving me a lot of mercy, and if I give it away, I'll have nothing left. No. Mercy in Krishna consciousness is based on spiritual mathematics, and I'm terrible at mathematics. I always ask, when I travel in India, the children, what's your favorite subject in school? Math. Am I correct, ladies? Indian ladies? All your children, they love math. And I kept saying 2 + 2 is 5. No, Maharaj, it's 4. I'm joking with them. But there's a transcendental mathematics in Krishna consciousness. 1 - 1 is 1,000,000 if you're giving Krishna consciousness. You give, but then you get. Because you gave, then you get more. Or Jesus said, it's better to give than it is to receive. So part of giving away is that you have to become fixed up devotee. Therefore, good sadhana, it all starts in the temple room. Good sadhana is required for every devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At one initiation ceremony, one of my god sisters, she came up to Prabhupada, who's sitting on the Vyasa-san, and Prabhupada says, so, what are the 4 regulative principles? She got it right. Then he said, so how many rounds will you chant on these beads? And she said, Srila Prabhupada, like we always say, I will chant a minimum of 16 rounds. And Prabhupada leaned over and said, why minimum? Why not more? And he said, if you got time, chant Hare Krishna. So chanting, getting fixed up, and going out, like Haridas Thakur, he'd chant 100,000 names in his mind, 100,000 softly for the living entities, then top of his lungs, 100,000 names at the top of his lungs. We chant for purification so that we can preach. But both are necessary. Sarvabhauma says elsewhere, Jalpanti Hari Namani Chaitanya Janan Rupata Bhajanti Vaishnavan Yetu Te Ganchanti Hare Padam. Those who chant the names of Hari, remember he's an intimate associate of Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Those who chant the names of Hari, while cultivating the knowledge and practices of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and who worship his followers, the Vaishnavas, certainly go to the abode of Sri Hari upon leaving their bodies. You want to go back home, back to Godhead? Okay, so chant the names of Hari, cultivate knowledge, and all the practices that Prabhupada has given us. Worship everybody but yourself, all the Vaishnavas, and you'll go to the abode of Sri Hari upon leaving your body. Oh, it's an exaggeration. There's no exaggeration. You can't feel compassion, which is the theme of this lecture, if you yourself are still attracted to this world. Prabhupada told my godbrother Satsarup Maharaj, he gave him his danda, sannyas. Take this danda. Never look back and think you've left anything valuable behind. And never envy the position of the materialistic sense enjoyers. But we know becoming detached so that we can be a good preacher, instead of saying, Maya's like really bad, I think. You should say, Maya's really bad. So to be convinced, you have to be detached. How do you get detached? By becoming attached to Krishna. Chanakapanda says you can't give up something unless you get something better. So what's the best of the best? Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasures. So if you have Krishna, you can renounce this world, become a powerful preacher. Rupa Goswami says in Padyavali, O Lord, knowing you, your devotee sees the greatest river as a puddle of water, the sun as a mere firefly, Mount Meru as a clump of earth, the emperor of the world as just everyone's servant, Chintamani jewels like pebbles, desire trees like sticks, the entire world like a bunch of straw, and his own body a burden, because his only attachment is you. So therefore, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. We chant our japa, we chant in congregation, and then we have the internet, we have the streets, you can still chant in the streets. I just came from Russia. Forbidden to chant Hare Krishna on the streets. Forbidden to distribute books. But the devotees are making more devotees, and they're distributing more books by going sort of silently on the internet. You can't preach there. If you preach, the FSB, the KGB, they come and take you and put you in a Russian prison for 3 days. I cannot begin to tell you how horrible the prison is that they put me in. I can't even to think back. It was so, couldn't take a shower for 3 days. Some devotees brought a little food. The guards were always looking at me. Till one day I gave a class, and I had somebody who spoke broken English, and at the end of the class, one of the guards said, "You're a really cool guy." Because I told them that my father, it's not really true, but my father was the police chief of San Francisco for most of his life, and I know what it's like to be a policeman, you poor guys, you know. They became my friends. When I was leaving the jail, they said, "Sir, you have an adventurous life. Have you ever written any books?" And in my bag, I had that new book that's come out, Adventures of a Traveling Monk, a collection of all my diary chapters, many of them for the years. I said, yeah. So, oh, they were fighting over it. I said, no, I have 4 or 5. Here you go. They said, can you sign it? This is how I left the prison. not me. So this, we can preach anywhere, but I do like being back in Vrindavan, taking the devotees on Kartik Parikrama to Mayapur and Calcutta and Puri this time. So this preaching work, it'll look good for you and it'll look good for the people as well. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, again, he's one of my favorites. He wrote, the news broadcast by the saints is that all avatars of the Lord are indeed capable of delivering their devoted followers who worship them. However, Shri Gaurachandra delivered both devotees and non-devotees alike by his gifts of Shri Krishna's ambrosial names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So Prabhupada brought that mantle to the West, and as a result, this movement's spreading like wildfire all over the world. And devotees are appearing everywhere. The last time I was in Russia was 6 years ago because of COVID and then now the war, etc. But, I was thinking, my poor disciples haven't seen me. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to go there and I'll see a few of them. When I got to the festival, there was 4,000. We're not supposed to say it. 4,000 devotees. Beautiful tilak, kantimala, saris, dhotis, Hare Krishna, in a country where you can't distribute books, where you can't have Harinam. This is a miracle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was foreseen by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in his Shushloka Shatakam. He states, one of my favorite, Tilaka Vimala Mala, Nama Yukta Pavitraha, Hari Hari Kalaimadye, Evam Babhuvaha. From the moment that the holy name of Hari appeared on the earth, Vaishnavas became manifest everywhere. adorned with faultless tilak and neck beads, and equipped with the Maha Mantra, in the midst of the age of Kali, they purified the atmosphere, chanting Hari, Hari. Indeed, it will come to pass. And it did. So we're coming now for Kartik. Prabhupada told me, or told in his room, we had a darshan. Prabhupada said, Vrindavan's for inspiration. He wanted us to go back to the sacred books. He's blessed a few great souls, like our temple president, Panchagoda, because of his sincere desire and his hard work for so many years here in this temple. It's not easy to be a temple president or a manager. Prabhupada's very happy with the service here. We come for inspiration, and then we go back home, and like Haridas Thakur in the third stage, we broadcast it very loudly, or the sound of silence of the internet. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he concludes, Kim adbhutam gora hares charitam tato dhikam tat priya sevakanam sankirtana moda jana nuraga prema padanam vidanoti loke. Oh, how wonderful is the character of Shri Gaur Hari, and still more, that of his dear servants, all of you. Throughout the world, he spreads his gifts of love for Krishna. He also blesses us with attraction for the saintly persons who take pleasure in the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And if you participate in ISKCON's endeavors to spread this movement all over the world, you'll get the blessings of Krishna, one of the final blessings in Bhagavad-Gita. This is you and anyone who's part of this movement. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he'll come back to me. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyamasundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Jai Jai Sri Radhe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.